Toppins! These cute little fellas are the most important collectible in Pizza Tower. Each one gives you $10 when you escape the level with them for the first time, and you use that money to rent the boss gates. However, as is to be expected whenever a game has some required collectible, someone eventually asked just how many you can avoid. Now it is important to note that at the time of this video's creation, there is absolutely no way to skip the boss gates on the first 4 floors. You have to beat the bosses to get the key to the next floor, which requires you to collect Toppins. But I'm not here to see if you can beat Pizza Tower while avoiding the Toppins. I'm here to see just how many you can avoid in each stage, ignoring boss gates and money requirements. I got the idea for this video after watching a fellow YouTuber by the name of Just Sam. They had a video much like this one, but they stopped before floor 2 due to needing money to fight Pepperman. I asked that you go watch their video after finishing mine, go show them some love and support. I wouldn't have gotten this idea without their video. I won't be going into explicit detail about each toppin as most of them are easily avoided, but I will talk more about the ones that require some strategy. Alright, let's get into it. Firstly, I want to briefly cover the tutorial. Basically every topping can be easily avoided, excluding the tomato. The position of the tomato makes it seemingly impossible to break the metal block that stands in our way. Fortunately, the tutorial toppins aren't real toppins since they don't give us money and they don't appear in front of the door, so we can generally ignore them, and I won't add them to the final tally. John Gooder can be completed without collecting any toppins. The mushroom can be simply jumped over, which is a common trend with this challenge. The cheese is on a platform you can just run under. The tomato is actually tricky, but it's still not too bad. You should be at Monk 3 or 4 for this. You'll want to jump and then dive to slip right in between the wall and the toppin. The sausage is also on a platform, though you might run into it if you're on autopilot. Lastly, the pineapple can be easily skipped with a well-placed jump or by going under it with a super jump. That makes 1 level done without toppins, so currently we have 0 out of 95. All of Pizzascape's toppins are really easy to avoid. The mushroom is in that little shortcut you find in the first room. As long as you don't jump in during pizza time, you should be fine. The cheese is near the first night transformation, but is easy to ignore. The tomato is behind a stupid rat, no need to kill it. The sausage is also in a little alcove, and the pineapple is in a different alcove. Like I said, they're all really easy. Ancient Cheese's mushroom is easy, just continue on the normal path to avoid it. The cheese is in an alcove similar to Pizzascape's pineapple, just go over it during pizza time. The tomato is directly underneath the bomb we need to grab to clear the way forward. Fortunately, we can jump around the tomato to grab the bomb and then carefully drop next to it to avoid collecting it. The sausage is to the left of a ladder and we can run past it. The pineapple is in the room directly after Pillar John and it can be jumped over. The hallway is a little tight, so be careful. Either way, Ancient Cheese can be completed without toppins, letting us retain our perfect 0 out of 95 toppin score. Blood Sauce Dungeon is easy for the most part. The mushroom and cheese can be easily avoided as they're both on side paths. The tomato is directly in the way after a bowl of blood sauce, so it should be approached slowly to avoid collecting it. Unfortunately, we've hit our first unavoidable toppin. The sausage is directly behind a metal block in the middle of a tunnel that is as tall as Peppino is, meaning we can't jump over it, forcing us to collect our first toppin. The pineapple is fortunately easy to avoid, so after a quick escape we make our way to floor 2 with a grand total of 1 toppin out of 95. Still a great score. Floor 2 starts us off with Oregano Desert, and I have nothing to say about this level. All of the toppins are in pizza marks that can be ignored. You are not required to go in any of them, therefore making this one of the easiest levels to do without toppins. Waste Yard's toppins can actually be pretty tricky to avoid. The mushroom is very easy to skip, just don't enter its little hallway. The cheese is directly in front of the priest who removes the ghost transformation for the first time, but there's just enough room to slip between it and the wall. The tomato is right next to a ladder you need to climb down to progress, so you can either slow down to avoid it or jump over it and go through the secret path with your own. The sausage is in a small alcove that you can avoid, but you'll likely be running at Mach 4, so you'll need to react quickly. The pineapple is the hardest to avoid. It's basically the reverse of the cheese. It's in front of our path forwards and there's a small gap to slip past it. It may be difficult to avoid as it's on top of a wall and you're being chased by Ghost John. In any case, it's still avoidable, making Waste Yard another level cleared without any toppins. Fun Farm has an interesting set of toppings. Most of them can be avoided extremely easily. The mushroom, cheese, and tomato are all on side paths or platforms that can be bypassed without any difficulty. The sausage is tricky to avoid, but it is possible with a few well-placed jumps. The pineapple, however, is just like the sausage in Blood Sauce Dungeon. It's in a tunnel with no way to jump over it or go around it. That means we leave Fun Farm with 1 toppin, bringing us up to 2 out of 95 total toppins. Fast Food Saloon's toppins are also easy to avoid. They're all earned by beating Horsey in a race, so if we just don't win any of the races, we won't be able to get any of the toppins. Easy. Floor 3 begins with Crust Cove, which has another easy set of toppins. The mushroom is on a side path filled with water, so just go over it to avoid the toppin. The cheese is in an alcove behind a bunch of canned pizza goblins, easy to avoid. The tomato is also easy to avoid, but it might get collected if you don't jump during the escape. The sausage can also be easily avoided, especially if you follow the path of the cannons. The only tricky toppin to avoid is the pineapple, as it is in the final barrel sequence almost right in front of the stupid rat you have to kill. There's a small gap you can jump into and start rolling to get past the rat and avoid that toppin. It's another level done without any toppins. Gnome Forest, very similarly to Fast Food Saloon, has toppins that are very easy to avoid. While you can no longer jump over the gnome houses to avoid getting the toppins, you can just wait for the gnome pizzas to freeze. When time runs out and they become frozen, you'll be able to safely pass each gnome house without collecting the toppins. All of Deep Dish 9's toppins can be avoided. Most of them are tucked away in small rooms that can be bypassed really easily. The mushroom can be easily avoided by jumping off the rocket before you collide with the asteroid. The cheese and tomato are in side rooms and small alcoves that can be skipped, so they're not too tough. The sausage can be flown over with the rocket transformation, and lastly the pineapple can be skipped with a well-timed turn of the rocket. Golf is another easy level for this. The mushroom is immediately in front of you when you enter the room with Jerome's door, so just slow down and jump over it. The next 3 toppins are all on the extra golf courses, which you can just walk past. Lastly, the pineapple can be avoided by either performing Berg Skip or by jumping over it. Starting off floor 4, the Pig City can be easily beaten without toppins. All of the toppins are in the challenge rooms that you enter with the taxis, so if you don't take them, then you will avoid the toppins. The only one you are required to take is the 3rd one, but you can easily jump over the tomato to skip past it. Peppybot Factory brings another set of easy toppins. The mushroom and cheese are off to the side and can be bypassed without any trouble. The tomato is right next to a Peppybot and the Peppybot Spring. It's not difficult to avoid if you know when it's coming up, but it's fairly easy to forget about and accidentally collect. The sausage is easily skipped over with the box transformation, and lastly the pineapple can be skipped by avoiding the grabby hand. Oh Shit has an interesting set of toppins. The mushroom can be jumped over, and so can the cheese, but it does have a bit of a tighter jump. The tomato is in a side room that can be entirely skipped over. Unfortunately, the sausage is in the first unique room of the escape, and is, once again, in a small tunnel you have to go through to progress. This time it's right in front of the John switch you need to press to continue forward, meaning we have to collect it. Lastly, the pineapple can be skipped with a super jump. This makes 3 out of 95 toppins unavoidable. RRF has the trickiest set of toppins thus far. The first toppin, the mushroom, is in another small tunnel, but this tunnel is slightly taller than the past few. You can jump over it. There's a very tight window, but it is possible to jump over it. Skipping it in the escape is much easier as it can be flown over with the pepper pizza, but I have no idea if it's possible without it. Theoretically it is possible to jump over it, and I do think you can, however I have yet to do it myself. The cheese is easy to avoid if you slow down before entering the room. The tomato should also be slowed down for, just crawl under the wall and activate the heater. The sausage is easily jumped over, though the fake Santa might harass you. Lastly, the pineapple can be skipped with a well-timed jump and uppercut. A very tricky set of toppins, but we still avoided all of them. Now we're at floor 5, but before we jump into Pizza Scare, there is something I should mention. It is possible to avoid every toppin in floor 5, as there is a speedrunning trick fittingly called floor 5 skip, where you can do some crazy pause shenanigans to enter the room that holds Pillar John in the Crumbling Tower of Pizza, and that level doesn't have any toppins. So while it is possible, I doubt that most people can actually pull off this trick, so we'll be going through the rest of the levels anyway. Pizza Scare has another set of easy toppings. The mushroom can be jumped over, but watch out for the Ghost King's anchor. The cheese and tomato can also be jumped over, but I recommend slowing down for both. Actually, the sausage and pineapple can also be jumped over, but they're rather tricky to avoid. I guess Pizza Scare is the jump over the topping level. Don't make a sound toppings are tricky ones. The mushroom can be easily jumped over, the cheese is probably the trickiest to avoid, you need to jump from the wall and uppercut to pass over it. The tomato is fortunately on a side path that is skippable. The sausage is right in front of the path forward, but there's enough room to jump over it. The pineapple is also tricky, but a well-timed jump is all you need to clear it. And of course, with all these toppings, there's the threat of the toppin' monster in the room that could possibly catch you while you're trying to avoid it. In any case, we're still at 3 out of 95 toppins collected, and we're on to our final level. War isn't the sort of level to let us off easy, so it gives us one final gut punch to end the challenge off. The mushroom can be easily skipped over, while the cheese is avoided by going over it either with the jump or over the platform. The tomato, however, is unavoidable. It's in another small tunnel and can't be skipped. The sausage is in between a stupid rat and the wall, but there's just enough room for us to slip in between the cracks. Lastly, the pineapple is easily avoidable by running away from it. And with that, we've reached the end of our journey. The Crumbling Tower Pizza has no toppins, so it's time to tally up our total. Out of the 95 toppins in Pizza Tower, a grand total of 91 are avoidable. The 4 that remain unavoidable are the sausage in Bloodsus Dungeon, the pineapple in Fun Farm, the sausage in Oh Shit, and the tomato in War, all of which are in little tunnels that you have to go through to progress. Again, thanks to Just Sam for the original video that inspired me to make this. A link to their channel is in the description. As always, thank you all for watching, I hope you have a lovely day, and I'll see you all next time.